And welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Great Transition. How are you, Seth?
What is your secret to your calmness? That's what I want to know. And can you share some?
Ooh, as the world is in this crazy, crazy turmoil, we recognize that there's a plan to this madness. Everybody, there's a there is some logic to nature that we have to figure out what it is. And the more we can figure it out, the more calm we can be despite the storm. I don't know how is that for an answer, Seth, but in any case, I was just trying to get into welcoming everybody. If
Hi,
you're new,
everyone.
yes, if you're new here or you're watching the recording for the first time, then welcome to the Great Transition. In here, in the Great Transition, what we're doing is we're trying to put the pieces together. We're trying to look at everything, all the craziness that's happening in the world, especially in 2020, and who knows what's next. Very soon, just around the corner, 2021 is coming. Are we ready for it?
Is there any
Uh,
good news? Do we have any good predictions for
I'll tell
21?
you what, I think we have epic news. We have, which, could be good or bad, but it's epic. We want to tell you that the world is going through a major, unprecedented transformation. That's what we identify. And if you feel that something like this is going on, you've come to the right place. This is what we're doing here. We are exploring the great transition that all of humanity is going through in the 21st century. And as we do that, we want to go beyond and above all of our differences politics, religion, culture, and everything in between. We want to see how we are one species. That's how nature treats us. So that's how we want to try to look at the picture as
Mm,
well. So welcome to the great transition, everybody. So Seth, what's keeping
very
you?
nice.
What's
Very
keeping
nice,
you?
bro. Very nice intro. Um,
What's keeping you agitated?
Everything basically is agitating me. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, pretty much everything these days, the last week or so. I don't know what I tested negative. I told you that. I'm gonna do like another test. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
it's just maybe something in the air, right? It's I don't know what it is. That's got me like with very little patience last 2 weeks.
Hmm.
And I told you yesterday I woke up and all I saw was like blurry colors. Um, and I was like dizzy. Anyway, it went away and I was sweating. It went away after 15 minutes, but it's really making me feel like a little more annoyed than usual.
Hmm. Annoyed
Um,
or scared, or both, or a little bit of both. No, because
on the side of fear, it's I have like a very strong confidence actually because it's we've been doing this long enough that the reality of what's actually happened is like in my bones. I understand that there's we see. I mean, it's just so clear now that how nature's coming closer to us, how it's operating everything that's happening. Um, but it's maybe I'm just frustrated and we study these very big things, big systems, and then you deal with your day-to-day life and it feels like completely opposite. And of course, between these two things, that's where we're building our change in our perception of reality. um,
Well, maybe
but
it's
I don't
maybe it's also important to mention when you say we're studying, maybe not
uh,
all people who are watching us or will watch this recording know. So we're talking about, well, both Seth and I are studying the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah for almost 20 years now. So we're doing that every day for 3 hours, practicing this incredible wisdom. Um, and we're studying big systems when it comes to the wisdom of Kabbalah. Yes, the system of governance of all the levels and layers of nature, and especially human evolution. So, from that to go into your daily life, you feel what?
so okay so well, on the one hand, It's well, look at the. I mean, we talked about the vaccine a lot already, but Bright has been sending me. Uh, Bright is living in the UK, and he's been sending me videos and things from the ground there.
Hmm.
Um, what can you say about this? First of all, these things need to be, probably in an ideal. We talked about it in the last show. In an ideal state, you would have a lot of time to test the vaccine and
Yeah.
everything. But even more than that, forget about that. Even if it works and there's no side effects and everyone is it works on everyone without a problem.
Okay.
We didn't trick nature. We didn't trick nature. Did you see what's happening in Paris?
I saw something. I saw
Okay.
something. I don't
So
know exactly what's happening there, though. But
Okay,
by the way,
so
before you go into that, I just want to tell you, dude, the COVID thing. I got a message today from someone who is taking care of my body now. They're helping me with some medical thing that I have, um, just some treatment. Anyway, won't go into the details, but so that person just told me I can't see you, for the next 2 weeks because I have to be in quarantine because the health ministry, just texted me and said that I was in touch with someone who was tested positive for COVID, which
mm,
means that I need to get tested as well. If you basically, you know.
mhm, right, because that
So
person was in touch with you.
yeah, I mean, I don't have to, but I probably will. I don't have to by law at the moment, but I probably will. And yeah, so that makes both of us then.
Mm.
Yeah,
So listen, I tested negative. You could test negative, but we understand these things
yeah,
affect us anyway. Um,
yeah.
so, all right, listen. When you have professional sporting events, and when you have as maybe like as not such a spiritual thing or whatever, but when you have professional sporting events, when you have ways that men, people, let's say men, because I know
Okay.
more about them than women, have
All
an
right.
outlet for their aggression, have an outlet for their um, these primal feelings inside of them. Yeah, Giants, go Eagles,
All
yeah,
right.
F you to the Patriots,
Yep.
we're the Giants, whatever, like rah, drinking beer, like punching each other and stuff. You have a way
Oh
to
my
do
God,
something with
Seth,
all.
you're so masculine.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
So there's so just as an example, professional sports, things like that give the population, give people a way to something to do with all of this energy, right? Like um, that guy who kind of hijacked the German population. He understood how to take all of that libido, how to take all of those primal urges, and how to aim them, towards a certain goal. So right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
you what's going on in society, in our society, is we've taken, just everyone just go home. It's like you have a little kid and it's like, shh, shh, just be quiet, just sit down, just
Mm-hmm.
just just be quiet. How long can you tell your 5-year-old to just sit down and be quiet until he's
Yeah.
going to just either have serious mental problems or just start banging his head against the wall?
Yeah, there needs to be an outlet. There needs to be
You need an
some way.
outlet.
Yeah.
You need an outlet. So what does the government do? They take away your business also. Okay, fine. We can't go outside, so you take away sports. Okay, we can't do this. It's dangerous, so you take away the business. Now, what does the government do next? They take away the big holidays. I saw Mancini wrote that there's no, you're not allowed to get together in Canada for Christmas or something. I saw in the chat. So you take away the holidays, right? So
Right.
there's what happens is, first of all, what are we doing here, and what do we do constantly when new students in the wisdom of Kabbalah, when people are asking us in the show like what to do, what to do, what to do? First thing we got to do is get some kind of education about what's going on.
Yeah.
Right, the first thing that a good politician or a real leader, not these lying, I don't even want to say the words because I don't know, you'll get mad at me for saying it on our channel here, these disgusting lying, worse than animals, who are the leaders. uh there's no leadership, right? You need to educate people. You need to explain to people who they are, what's going on in life. But all that's taken away. There's no education. It's just like, no, you can't go to work. No, there's no sports for you. No, you can't see your family on the holiday. And so, Chris, if you can find some footage from what's going on in Paris. So, listen, there was, I think, the straw that broke the. I don't even want to get into the straw that broke the camel's back. Okay, I think that the straw that broke the camel's back was again another horrible racial thing where some cops beat up a black music producer. I think is what the straw was that broke the camel's back,
Hmm.
that led to the latest riot in Paris. But and Chris,
Whoa.
Chris, can you scroll to the end also? There's a little more footage at the end.
Oh, that's bad. This is bad stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
people
this is
now
like
this is
today. This is today,
this is
yeah?
this is yesterday, I think. So this
Okay.
is basically coming to a city near you.
Yeah.
Uh, so as dumb maybe as professional sports are to put a bunch of guys in tight pants and have them chase a little ball around and tackle each other, as whether you like it or not, it was a that's what's like going to go on in the street. You know what I mean? It's like they're
Hmm.
without a way. Now we, from our unique perspective, are talking about what to do with those forces also, right? Like you think
Yeah.
about, I'm going to put just a lot of things on the table and then we can
Go for
unpack it
it.
however we want. But,
Go for it.
you look at, for example, children, teenagers who are going through puberty. They're told, that sex is bad. They're told that if they have these sexual thoughts, it's bad. They're told that, there's something wrong with you if you're thinking about sex and all these things. And yet, all that the media is portraying to them is is sex, right? In one way or another.
Yeah.
So you're messing with all of these natural forces in people. You're creating so much
Yeah. Agitation.
mental.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Agitation, and
Yeah,
dissonance. There's so much cognitive dissonance
that
that
right.
people are
Cognitive
growing into.
dissonance.
Yeah.
Right. Um, so this is what's playing out now and we'll start. This is probably what we have in store for 2021 is now people haven't been able to leave the home for a year. Their businesses are being closed. They can't pay their bills. They have no way to get this energy out, to go
Hmm.
outside, to talk to people, to maybe shout at the neighbor or something like that, to do something to get their energy out. And so without Kevin James just wrote forced vaccines will see things get worse. So without
Hmm.
even if the vaccine is right, but without a good education,
Yeah.
okay, everyone, we're in this together and here's what we're doing and this is how we're going to do it. Instead, it's not the story.
Yeah.
There's just some overlord who comes in.
You know what? I would say it's even, to be more specific when we say education. I think it's a common story that we are missing, that we don't have today. We don't even have a coherent picture of reality. In most Western countries today, you see social polarization going to such extremes that are it's just it's mind boggling when you think about it. I mean, again, I'm just throwing a bunch of things here. Did you see that Trump speech that probably wasn't there so much on the mainstream media, but he published it on his whatever his own
Yeah, a
channels?
relative sent me the link to it and was interesting. I went on YouTube to try and find it. Or the relative sent me something and said there's the speech on now, and I went on YouTube to find it. I couldn't find it on YouTube, and I couldn't find it in any of the major media,
Chris,
which is
can
another
you
weird.
can you pull it up, Chris? Just to to make sure we know what we're talking about. So the yeah, so 45 minutes there. I didn't watch the whole thing, but I kind of skimmed through it, and basically for 45 minutes he goes on to explain the efforts that he and his team are doing to prove voter fraud. Now, again, quick disclaimer, I'm not pushing for one side or another side. I'm not even interested in in whether there was voter fraud or not. That's not what I'm trying to point out at all. What I am trying to point out is that half the country, let's say, half the population who is listening to this story, uh, they have a certain picture of reality that is diametrically opposed to the other half that have a different story. And at the same time, right now, these people are occupying the same land and coexisting for a while. Now, how long will it take? Who knows what will happen there? I mean, you should say what you think, but the you know what I mean? Like, this is like, have we ever before been in such a situation where people are not just disagreeing or, resentful towards each other, or there's bad blood, but have we ever been in a situation like this where people have a different picture of what is actually happening, to the point that they don't even live in the same reality? You know what I mean? There's half of the population are sure that Biden won, Biden's the president. That's what's happening. That's it's done. And then another half of the population is certain that there was voter fraud and that this is going to be proven, and so on. Like, the discrepancy, the dissonance that exists here is just at such a scale that when you think about it, it's like these people don't even understand each other. If you can't agree on what's happening, how can you go through a process together of, being a society that coexists with different factions and different worldviews? There is not even, you know what I mean?
You
This
can finally. I didn't really understand the whole that famous Babylon story that they couldn't understand each other. There was all the different people and they couldn't understand, something. They tried to build a tower to the sky, whatever, and then they couldn't understand each other. And through this process, I viscerally understand what that means. That it's literally like you have your own. Each side has its own media. Each side has its own beliefs. Each side is willing to fight in the street for its own beliefs. And
Yeah, the, the
you know,
the Babylon story is super relevant. The Babylon story is about how people stopped understanding each other. That's exactly relevant to what is happening right now, especially in the US, but I think in general, in all the Western countries, what we're seeing right now with this extremely intensifying social polarization. It's clear that America, what Chris is pulling up here, it's clear that America is deeply polarized. No election can overcome that. Yeah. So this is happening in my country. This is happening in your country. This is happening in European countries very, very strongly. And so we know where that leads. We know where that leads. That leads to violence. There's no other way. That leads to violence. If you don't have a way for people to somehow, in some way, find a common story, a common picture, agree on a certain kind of a picture of reality, that maybe we don't have to be similar. Maybe we can still be who we are and be different, but we live in a certain bigger kind of plan here. And that's what's missing. And I'm going to jump the gun here quickly and just say that the only thing, it's like this polarization is intensifying and intensifying and intensifying. People are becoming, further and further apart, and the only thing that can be a bridge or an umbrella or a blanket above everyone that covers everyone is nature. That's the one thing that, we can't
If you leave a piece of meat, I always thought this was fascinating. If you leave a piece of meat out on the counter, maggots will, you know what maggots are? Those little
yeah,
white
sure.
things, they'll start to grow on the meat and eat the meat. Like it will start to
Yeah,
decompose it. Okay.
which
So I
is
always thought
gross.
like
Yeah.
where it's gross. Where Chris, you want to pull up a video? I always thought like where do these maggots come from? Like how did they get on this meat? You know, where if you see a dead animal on the side of the road, um, if he's not cleaned up after a few days, the maggots will start coming out of. If you like poke it with a stick, you'll see all the maggots inside,
Yeah.
like eating it and decomposing it. The seeds of the maggots or whatever they come from, it's either in the air or already in the meat. It's just not the right conditions. As long as the body is alive, the maggot has no value to come out and start eating the meat. If
Right.
the body is dead and those other systems, oh thanks, Chris. Here we go. Oh God.
Oh boy. Oh, do we
Okay,
really
so there you
have to?
leave the meat out.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Really, really appreciate that.
I
You
think
leave
our
you leave
viewers appreciate it as well.
Yeah. So you leave the meat out and then the maggots start to eat it. Now, if the meat is either refrigerated or the meat is cooked, there's no maggots. But nature already prepared a way that the meat won't just sit there on the counter for 50 years. If the meat is not used, nature then automatically, it's a dynamic system, it will just start converting it into the next thing, right? So
Right.
there's nothing in nature that is bad. Meaning, of course, there's things in nature that are bad, but really, there's nothing in nature that is bad. It depends on how you. It depends on how you look at it along its path of development. So Mary Spies says, "Do we all have to agree?" No, of course not. We don't have to agree at all. Th- um, the role of a maggot is totally different than the role of a deer or a horse or whatever. There's things in nature that to begin with are opposite from each other. It's on purpose. This is how, and that's what we're always doing here. That's what we're always doing in the wisdom of Kabbalah. We're looking at the process, and we're always. That's why a Kabbalist isn't like so scared or so nervous about everything because he sees the whole process. He's not just looking at one frame. So we expect now that we're not living as animals, that we're living as humans, and we're going through this transition towards peace on earth, towards unity between all humanity. In order to get to unity between all of humanity, we need to have these big plus and minus forces.
Okay, good.
You must.
Good. Good. Yes, yes. Let's get in there. Let's get even deeper in there. Christopher Brighton Belmont says maybe we just have to
It's
learn
Singapore, by the way. It's in
from
Singapore.
Singapore. All right.
Yeah, very cool.
And we forgot to mention, if wherever you're watching from, tell us where you're from. Tell us where you're tuning in from. We love to do this kind of global list of everyone who's watching somewhere soon in the middle of the show. So Christopher Brighton Belmont is saying maybe we just have to learn to stop judging one another. I need to learn to stop judging others. Um, did you see the yeah, yeah, we talked about it. Did you see, you remember the there was a video a week ago or something like that that this YouTuber comedian post, I forgot his name. I forgot his name. Redhead
Oh,
long
J.P. Sears.
JP Sears. So he posted this
The last one he did was amazing.
the last one was about, was this the compassion one?
Yes, very
Okay, so
nice. It
that's what I'm
sounded
talking
like our
about.
message reached him somehow.
Yes, exactly. So that's okay. I want to add to it though. So he was, for those who didn't see it, first of all, it's worthwhile to watch it. So maybe we'll throw a link later on. But anyway, it's a skit. It's a comedy skit, and he talks about how compassion essentially is the cure, the vaccine even for divisiveness. And I think he did it in a satire way, but in a very real way, about how people, especially politically speaking, people from different sides of the political aisle, are are they just lost the ability to empathize and understand that people are actually on the other side, however different they are. They just want to have a better life. They just want, they want something better for themselves, and they see it differently from them. So do we need to just stop judging each other? I think, though, I think this is not enough. This is the thing. I think compassion and, let's say,
Not only is
being,
it not enough, I would go on to say it's impossible.
yes, it's impossible. Okay, but uh, um, we can take it in okay, let's just say it's impossible, but we should be trying to be more,
If you love someone like with your children, right?
yeah,
You you don't see any flaws in your own children. So I mean,
right.
when I say it's impossible, it's impossible. It's not impossible. It's impossible at this state
Okay, let's talk about.
without love, without real love, not fake love, without real love. It's impossible.
So you have, you're on one side and you see the world a certain way, and I'm on the other side and I see the world a different way. And we don't agree about many things. Um, I think there is this problem. We need to break it down. We need to break it down and to understand there. First of all, there are many incentives and foreign forces that we are all affected by. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe, for instance, that people are so left and right. You know what I mean? There's this.
You're
We've been
wrong.
we- there you go. I mean, we've been indoctrinated by the media and by this whole perpetual political power struggle that you're either here or there. But you know what? If you're on the left and I'm on the right, or vice versa, doesn't matter. We probably have even more. I'm going to make it even more difficult. Let's say we have even more things we disagree on that are not even accounted for in this definition of left or right. I'm saying there's even more than that. We as human beings, each of us is novel and unique and original, and we have very different perceptions, and preferences, and and aspirations and goals. Okay, so even more than just being on the left or being on the right. The point is, when Mary asks, do we can we just do we have to agree with each other, or when Christopher says, maybe we just need to stop judging each other. So you're saying it's impossible. It's impossible to agree with each other, and it's impossible to stop judging each other, right? Because,
That's what I said.
okay, so let's
That's what I said
let's
because a maggot is not supposed to become a sunflower. He's supposed to be a maggot. He's got a role to play. And in fact, it's an
but
important role.
okay, here is what we're missing, though. Both the maggot and the whatever, the deer. What do you want? What do you want to
Yeah.
add there? Both
On
the
the side of the
maggot
road,
and
yeah.
the deer, they all have different yet complementing functions in the natural ecosystem, right? In our bodies right now, there are cells that are extremely different. They have a different view of economics. The cells in your heart operate very differently from the cells in your liver, from the cells in your lungs, and from the cells in your foot. And you have different cells that are performing very different functions when it comes to how they use energy, or how they expend energy, or
So
how they conserve energy. They have very different worldviews, about economics, about politics, about borders, about whether they should allow new immigrants. I'm talking about the body right now, right? Your 100 trillion cells in your body right now. They each have those groups. They have very different worldviews. They have very different policies. They have very different functions. And yet, there's one thing that connects all of them, and that is that they are interdependent and they somehow magically, that's the secret of nature, that's the mind of nature, that's the intelligence that is greater than the individual. It's the collective mind that makes up the superorganism that we call you or me or the human body.
What what happens by starting to understand what's going on in nature? So Mary asked another question: can you be a Kabbalist by not being a Kabbalist, basically? So no, Mary, a Kabbalist is a Kabbalist. If you want to look at all of the other forces like human rights and all these things, so then that's not a through the wisdom of Kabbalah, because now you're back down into earth. If you want to talk about the wisdom of Kabbalah, you need to see all of those attacks, they're also coming from the same source. All of that hatred is, I mean, the creator, nature, is the only force that created all of the evil. And there's no other, it's not like the every, some force created every galaxy and billions and trillions of stars, but yet, somehow George Soros managed, or Bill Gates, or some person, managed to like go against the force of nature. Impossible. Impossible. Everything that we see, we're looking at it like Asaf was talking about it. We're not talking about, oh, the human rights violations here. No, Asaf saying, no, no, that's look at the human body. That's these cells over here that are trying to kill these cells. So then if you want to be healthy, so then these ones need to grow stronger. And then there's, there's something that happens there. What happens through learning, through educating our hearts and mind about the process, is we start to perceive the true system that we're in. If we stay on the ground and we're stuck inside of, oh, these ones are exploiting now, of course we also live on earth, right? So there's things that you have to do on earth. If you see somebody beating someone up, if someone comes to try and hurt you, there's very strict things you need to do on earth. But when now nobody's attacking us right now, we're here learning together and understanding the system we're in. If we dial into each and every detail of, oh, there's some kind of racism over here, there's some kind of anti-Semitism over here, there's some kind of misogyny over here, we're missing, from it we have an emotion. It helps us, it points us towards wanting to find an answer, but the answer is not going to be in remaining on that same clash. That's not where the answer of the human body is. It's one system. When you open up and see that it's one system and all of the parts work together, so then you have a healthy human body. If you go inside and you look at one organ is trying to excrete and another organ is trying to intake, they're performing opposite functions, and they're each fighting over their own borders, and this one's trying to keep this out and this one's trying to move this in, and there's some kind of harmony. So what we want to do and need to know is saying is the common denominator is COVID the enemy. Where do we take it? So we're actually not looking at COVID even as the enemy. We're looking at, we want to, if we can zoom out to the level of the full body, then we say, oh, so in order to move all of humanity towards love, in order to move all of humanity towards connection, because what would happen if the vaccine works and everybody goes back to the old world? We were just exploiting each other. Everything in science, everything in medicine was how to make a buck. The earth was just like, extract as much minerals and resources out of the
Yeah.
earth, just have just put some brown children with no food and water in some mine to pull out stuff so I can have my fancy cell phone. Okay, that's really where we were. That's the world we left. It's disgusting. That's the world that but we're here. We don't care. It's climate controlled home and everything is nice. No, the world we left, complete. You don't see the slaves, but our whole life is built on slavery. All of our clothing, all of our technology. There's somebody is being exploited at a very, very serious level in order for us to be able to live in the world the way we are now. So we're not in any way satisfied with that pre-COVID life, and we don't see COVID coming from nature as some kind of enemy. In fact, it's help.
COVID is a balancing force. That's it. What does nature do? Nature creates life, evolves life, and sustains life. And in order to do so, it constantly balances what's out of balance. That's what nature does. So to look at COVID as some anomaly or as some enemy is just a very short sighted, fragmented perception of what's actually happening. Stacia Canet wrote something I liked. My spleen loves my liver, but spleen is on the left and the liver is on the right. So there you go. I think Seth, we need to go a little bit into okay, so how first that's the first step. I think we've established this is the first step that's already will solve so much of the violence, so much of the extreme scenarios will be solved if we just all start raising our awareness to the fact that we are interconnected, we are a single system, we are all bound by laws of nature, and we are all somehow are connected to a collective organism bigger than our individual worldviews. That's the first step. We have to recognize that we're interdependent. Without, we don't have to agree with each other. We do not have to have the same traits and qualities and perceptions and motivations as the other people that are not in our in group have. We don't need to have, we're not supposed to, just like the different spleen and liver in our bodies, right? But the spleen and liver, they both serve the single body that they are part of. So the first step is just that education. Just being aware of that, I'm certain will already solve a lot of the attitude will change. The direction will change by knowing that, by internalizing that we are connected to each other, that we're part of a single thing. Even if I'm different than you, I understand that I depend on you. What can I do? I can't, you cannot divorce from humanity. Your cells cannot divorce your body. It doesn't work that way. It's just, like it or not, nature put us together. Now, what do we do? So the moment that we start from this starting point, that's already, that itself will already take humanity. If we ran that kind of educational program, globally, and put that on the media instead of the perpetual fueling of hatred and divisiveness, then we would already be in a completely different situation. But I'm saying there's even more than that. Let's get even deeper. So no, we're not supposed to agree with each other. We're not supposed to change each other, also, which is something that in this whole political climate, this is what essentially one side is trying to do to the other side. I'm trying to either change you or I'm trying to
Kill
coerce
you.
you, kill you. Yeah, that's already be. We're still on the diplomatic level, Seth. We're I'm not trying to kill you yet. I'm trying to kill your view. Is basically what I'm trying to do. To kill your viewpoint, your stance, your ideology, or whatever it is. So we're not supposed to coerce each other. We're not supposed to agree with each other. We're not supposed to change each other. We're not even supposed to prove each other wrong. We are supposed to find a higher, more advanced level of consciousness where our opposites become our strength, where our differences complete each other, where they enable us to create something bigger than ourselves. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? Right? That's basically that's the question. That's the peace in the world question. Um, and that's where it gets difficult to explain and difficult to do, but we have to get involved with nature itself. This is the thing. We cannot do this We can't do this by ourselves. We are dealing with a force that that is greater than us. We are talking about tapping into the mind of nature. We're talking about activating the very force of nature that creates life. That's what needs to happen between human beings. This is the great transition that we're now talking about. Um, do you know you remember the research about collective intelligence?
Refresh my memory.
I will. You
I don't know what you're speaking about specifically.
okay, so I'll try to be brief about it. The I think 10 years ago they found empirical evidence in oh man, I can't remember all that. Maybe Chris can pull it up. But essentially there was a research with hundreds of people. They divided them to groups, and what they tried to find was, is there such a factor called collective intelligence in groups of different people, in groups of people, right?
Oh,
So
like if your friend is smoking, you're more likely to smoke, or if
no,
you're
no, no.
fat.
That's social influence. That's also fascinating. This is connected. There's this book connected by the two scientists who did this data analysis of 30 years worth of statistical data. That's fascinating too. But collective intelligence is where they took people, um, um, divided them to groups, gave them projects, gave them challenges, gave them tasks, and what they tried to find was whether the groups exhibited some factor of intelligence that belongs to the group. Meaning, it's not the sum of all of the IQ of the individuals in a group, it's not the average of it. It is rather some measurement that they called it factor C, collective, right? Collective intelligence. Some factor of group intelligence that has to do with how that group was conducting itself. And what they found was, and I'm shorten it very much, but what they found was, and this is relatively new, this is 10, 12 years ago, something like that, they found that such a factor definitely exists, and it is higher in groups that conduct themselves in a certain way. So it doesn't depend on
The
whether
mafia.
no, it
Yeah.
doesn't. What do you mean the mafia? Why
Nature,
mafia?
nature cares about unity. Even if people are united around crime, they still
Yes.
have have the same
Yeah.
force.
Right. So, yeah, but it's even more specific than just we can call it unity, but it gets more specific than that. They found that in a group where people were more socially sensitive to each other, which means they were more attentive to each other's social cues and nonverbal cues, in groups where they had a more equal distribution of speech, in groups where there were more women, because naturally women are more socially sensitive. That's the reason. In those groups, that factor C was higher, and it's not at all related to whether people were in that group were smarter or had a higher individual level of intelligence. And so what that tells you is that when people are organized in a certain way, when we create the environment between us, when we relate to each other in a certain way, we tap into a collective kind of intelligence that otherwise we don't tap into. And again, these people are different from each other. They have different skills. They have different functions, in the tasks that they were doing. But the one thing that unified them was they understood they're doing a single project, which is, again, think about it. That's education. What people are missing today in society is to recognize we got our common problems we need to solve. We got a mutual project. It's not, this country is not my project, and it's not your project. This world is not anybody's project. It's our common task. We got to solve these problems together. So that's number one. Number two, they started, despite the differences between them and the opposite opinions and viewpoints and all that, they created an environment where where they can be equal in the distribution of speech, where they can be sensitive to each other, and nature does the rest. So there's some form of dynamic. There's some dynamic here that is happening between human beings and that naturally binding force between us that we need to tap into, that we need to crack. That's what I would say is missing. That we're not even
Te-
trying to do that. When
Tears
you're
of
always
God.
trying to kill the other side, yeah, go ahead.
That was beautiful. So, oh, you were getting emotional there for a second, and I just cut
No,
you off. Wow, I
no,
should have
no.
let you go.
It's a
Usually, I'm getting emotional, and you're so pragmatic. Wow, you almost.
oh,
Damn. Okay, I have to pay more attention next time when
no,
you
it's
start to. You almost got really emotional. Um, there's someone with us called Tears of God. Tears of God. I don't remember seeing that name here. Maybe you've been here, but make sure you subscribe and everything. So Tears of God wrote a bunch of very interesting things, and one of them is COVID-19 was carefully invented, though. Isn't that unnatural?
okay.
And I think with this question, we can pretty much open up the entire wisdom of Kabbalah, and we could really understand everything that we've said so far in the show. And that is that we exist in a system. We don't understand that at all. It's like we have blindfolds over our eyes. We don't see what's happening at all. We're not inventing anything. We're not creating anything. The only thing we're doing is becoming aware of the system that we exist in. Okay, what Asaf was talking about just now, that there's this collective intelligence, right? That's what we're becoming aware of. That's what we're all on this mission together. We all share this goal together. Now, as long as I live like an animal, right? Well, no, there's certain animals that can all. I'm not talking about the birds that all fly and turn right and turn left. I'm the animal. He's not thinking past himself. He's not thinking past his instinct. And then all of a sudden, us, through this suffering, through a virus that comes, if we're all part of a system, Tears of God, then we're all connected into this. The brain is just a modem that's connected into this network. So even if the whole virus is completely man-made, it doesn't matter. It's still part of the system. It still comes out of the same collective consciousness, right? Because if everybody in this field understood that we're all one and we're all united and everybody loved each other, then nobody would do that. But because we're not aware of it yet, so by being so all that's happening through the suffering, through the riots, through the virus, the only thing that's happening is it's taking this ball of carbon, this protein body that can sense, and it's making it suffer. It's making it say, what is going on? It's making it open its eyes so that we don't continue to live just as a small animal. So all of these things, the whole process that's happening here, it's not that we're going to invent anything. It's not that we're creating anything. We exist in a complete system, a complete and whole system. All we're doing is discovering it. We're becoming aware of the unity that we already exist in. And we're doing it in our lifetime, in our life, while we live inside of these protein bodies.
And even if, let's say, COVID-19 was carefully invented, what does that tell you? Does that tell you that, and again, I'm not, there's 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 this whole spectrum of speculation and explanations for where COVID came from. All right, but be that as it may, whatever point of view you take on that spectrum, the question you should ask yourself is, um, is that does that make it not part of nature's plan? Is that not part of what's happening right now to human evolution, even if it was invented in a lab? Does that mean that does that take anything from its influence on humanity now globally? You see what I'm saying? The 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 whole network, the human network, this one organism, superorganism that we are, this global collective organism is now going through some phase that is called we call COVID, and it's doing all kinds of things to us. It's making us recognize that we're interdependent. It's making us run for a vaccine.
Well, even even
It's
before that, I think the first thing it's doing is showing us how different we are from each other.
showing us how different we are from each other. So naturally, of course, there will also be all kinds of ideas on where that influence is coming from and who made it happen and so on. And the truth is that in today's world, where with so much disinformation and misinformation and fake information, you can ask about anything. But who did that? Where is it coming from? The one answer that will always be true is, even if you have this people, this person, and those people, and that group, and those interests behind it, it's still part of the evolutionary process that we're going through, and
Hmm.
that is what we're trying to uncover here. The bigger conspiracy, the natural conspiracy, the conspiracy of evolution.
We're already part of it. We're already in it. By the way, Grandma Patty, is that you? Is that Lawrence's mom? Is that Grandma Patty, by the way? Um,
Where is that? On
I don't know.
YouTube
I saw
or?
Bright Road Grandma Patty asked the question, but more interested in the question, I want to know if that's Lawrence's mom.
Oh,
Um,
we
um,
should. Lawrence is responsible for
many of our
many of the
songs here.
songs that we put at the end of the show. So yeah,
We're already in it. We're already in that love. We're already in that harmony. We don't feel it, and that's that the process of making it real is speaking to each other about it, is making it so that we calibrate the world around us to that inner reality that we start to perceive already. And when we do that, we actually leave the perception of this reality, because this reality is based on our five senses, is based on our ego. There's amazing science about perception. Asaf, we talked about it this week. If anyone has seen the experiment where there's a bunch of college students throwing a basketball around, and the people that are asked to watch the experiment are
oh
asked,
yeah,
you know,
we
they
should
say,
show it here. So it's at
maybe
some
maybe on
point.
Thursday we can.
Yeah.
Okay, they say, count how many times the basketball is thrown between everybody. And so you're sitting there, you're counting, and half the room is supposed to count the amount of times that the people in the black t-shirts throw the basketball, and the other half of the room is supposed to count the amount of times that the people in the white t-shirt throw the basketball between them. And while that's happening, somebody in a giant gorilla suit like walks through the frame and gets to the middle of the frame and goes, ah, and then keeps walking off. 50% or more of the people who
Yeah.
were counting the balls being thrown around didn't see the gorilla
Yeah,
at
and
all.
when you watch this video and you are focused on counting the passes, you literally don't see it. Yeah. Yeah, our
So
perception
what,
just,
what
it just hides it. Yeah.
so what the science says, and maybe we can go into it even more, is not that they weren't paying attention to the gorilla. They didn't even see the gorilla. And he goes into how the hypothalamus and the certain parts of the brain develop, and and things from instinct, and we don't really understand what kind of creature we are. We don't understand what's going on. We wake up, we feel certain things, and we build a whole life, a whole world, a whole perception of reality based out of what I feel in December 2020. We don't understand that we evolved from like lizards, you know.
Yeah.
We evolved from some fish or from some water or from some cell, and all of that is still existing in us. We don't even see anything that doesn't fit our vision of how life is. Meaning there's so much going on that a gorilla walked in front and people didn't, 50% of the people didn't even notice because they were focused on something else.
So
So
now think about what happens when you're constantly being focused by, whether it's the media or just whatever, like that whole social climate, the social media, mainstream media, what the people around you in 2020 are telling you. You're always focused on certain things that limit your entire perception to this very narrow fragment of reality, fragment of perception, and we call that reality. It's yeah, that's just mind blowing. The
one thing quick,
Yeah.
Kevin, we see your questions, and Yetzi, I know you asked something at the beginning. We see everyone's questions. We don't always have a chance to open everything up. Maybe one day we'll have a longer show. But let's just for a minute say hello to everyone who's here. Bright, thank you for this global check over here. We have friends with us today from Singapore, from Denmark, from Nairobi, Kenya, from Brooklyn, from Batumi, Georgia, Israel, Virginia, Finland, California, Egypt, Taikiko, Florida, Bangalore, India, Washington State, Brazil, Utah, Ghana, Colorado, Northampton, Houston, Texas, the Netherlands, New York, Saskatoon, South Africa, Old Fort, North Carolina, Turkey, Minnesota, and Essex, England. Hello, everyone. Wow. And yeah, pretty amazing. Did you want to get to another question
there
before we
there's a
jump?
there's a question here that could be a good concluding question here from Reina Rachel. And
Okay.
she's saying, when are we as a world going to reach that? Be part of the whole, be in harmony with each other. I didn't really think about answering that. I was just thinking about reading that because it's a beautiful. It feels like a wish more than a question. It feels like a desire, like an aspiration more than a question. And you know what, Reina? Maybe this is the answer. Maybe that's all we need to do. See, reality doesn't work based on our five senses. The actions that we think we need to do when it comes to nature, we are so limited in our understanding of how the natural forces activate us and how and what kind of function is required of us. But really, the unique function of human beings is not our politics, it's not our science, even, it's not our intellect, it's not about how smart we are, it's not about how much we do with the ecology, even though that surely needs to be fixed. There's a lot of things that we do wrong in this world. But really, the function that is unique to human beings, that nature as if wants to elicit from us, wants to squeeze out of us, is that unique frequency of the human heart, of our intention, of our desire to actually discover that we are parts of a single body, to discover that we are one thing. There was a question there, I can't remember from whom, and we didn't get to reading it in the flow. But someone asked, when we said we do one our part and nature does the rest. So that's the answer for you as well. That's exactly what needs to happen. We need to do just our part. Evolution will do the rest. What is the rest? The rest is creating a new level of life between human beings. This is what's happening right now. It's not just finding, a new leader. It's not about finding a vaccine. If we just find a vaccine and deal with COVID, another schmovid or blovid or whatever it is, as Seth beautifully coined it in one of our shows, will come. The only way for us to rise to a new level is to activate our desire to do that, raise our consciousness, educate each other, want that, and by that we will start tapping into the mind and force of nature. And it will raise us, it will elevate us. And from there, from a new level of life, from a new level of experience with each other and nature and everything around us, we'll start creating a new world. And this song hits it right on the head.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. We'll see you Thursday, 2 p.m.
Big
Eastern.
hug. Thanks, Asaf. Amazing to be with you again today. Thank you, everybody. Big hug.
What's near and what's far, revealed and concealed in us, all is one. Now we bow our heads, stand above the pain, lost inside the friends, living once again, bound by threads of love, of a single care, here inside the friends, every heart in prayer. And it's all one, the light and the darkness, the sweetness, the sorrow, it's all one, the good and the bad, what's past and tomorrow, and it's all one, what's near and what's far, revealed and concealed in us, all is one. Blink of an eye, it'll all disappear, and we'll turn from this world to a world without end, where each sin that we've sown will be shown in our favor. This is our life, this is our labor, till it's all one. All is one. And it's all one. The light and the darkness, the sweetness, the sorrow, it's all one. The good and the bad, what's past and